everyone, and welcome to In the Jumpseat, a look into different ways to travel while working. Of Elevate Aviation's virtual cross-country tour, live from Kelowna. We are so excited to have you join us today and can't wait to hear from our wonderful speaker lineup about their amazing careers in aviation. We acknowledge that we are speaking from the traditional territory of the Syilx Okanagan Nation. Elevate Aviation is a nonprofit organization that helps women, youth, and underrepresented groups to thrive and succeed through careers in aviation. Elevate Aviation has programs all across Canada that educate people about aviation careers and provide support to those who need it. You can view all of our programs on our website at and of course, this cross-country tour. The cross-country tour started back in 2015 to showcase the many careers available and the paths you can take to join the exciting world of aviation. This year, we are excited to present the tour virtually. We hope you can enjoy the presentation today and ask any questions that you may have. You can use the chat feature within Zoom webinar, and the moderator will compile the questions throughout the speaker's presentation. At the end, our moderator, Katie, will present the frequently asked or most unique questions to the speakers during the Q&A. To start off, my name is Hannah Duffield, and I'm the British Columbia Community Lead for Elevate Aviation. Outside of Elevate, I work as a structural aircraft maintenance engineer here in Kelowna at KF Aerospace. One of our speakers this morning is a fellow aircraft maintenance engineer and can elaborate more deeply on what that means exactly. Now, enough about me. I would like to introduce you to our first amazing speaker of the day, Rhodielyn Padilla, who is a pilot and works as a flight instructor. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please ask them through the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Take it away, Rhodielyn.
Hi, guys. I hope you guys can see my screen here. I'm just going to, okay, hopefully it's working. I can't quite see if you guys are there, but anyways, my name is Rhodielyn Padilla. I am so excited to be able to join you guys for this week's tour. Oh, there we go. Is it starting? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and we can see your screen as well. It looks awesome.
Okay, perfect, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so my presentation does glitch a little bit, so bear with me. I'll do my best. So yes, I am a freelance instructor. Thank you, Hannah, for that introduction. And I'll be sharing with you my journey into becoming a pilot. I just wanted to start off with a video.
Girls, come on. Leave the saving the world to the men? I don't think so. Young bad girls do it well. Young bad.
So how many people know what is the percentage of women in aviation that are pilots, or the amount of pilots percentage-wise that are actually women? Anybody? For those who had said 9%, that's correct. Only 9% of pilots are women, which was a lot better than a few years ago, which was 7%, but we're not even hitting the double digits. So we're on the right path, and hopefully this encourages more people to pursue an aviation or as a pilot. When I was 6 years old, I swear my dad whispered into my ear saying, "Rhodielyn, you're going to be a pilot." And any agreeable 6-year-old who loves her father very much is like, yeah, of course, I want to be a pilot. That seems so cool. But I had no idea how I was going to be a pilot by 6. So I had the opportunity when I was 12 to join the Air Cadet program. From there, I thought it was a huge pivotal point in my life because I've met people, networks, and developed so many amazing skills in order to be the woman that I am today. Outside of aviation, I love to travel. I love a bunch of sports, winter and both summer sports. And in the corner here, you can see I really love Star Wars. a big influence in my life as well has been gymnastics, and we've been to represent Team Canada back in 2019 in Austria, and I'm competing again with my team to represent Team Canada in Amsterdam in 2023. That was a huge catalyst into me becoming a yoga instructor. Now, I was really fortunate and quite naturally good at a lot of things. I did well in school. I was able to compete in gymnastics and everything like that and do well in sports. But the one thing about aviation is that it challenged me. I'm the only pilot in my entire family history. So I had no reference, no guidance, nothing. And this is the place where I felt like I failed the most. Who here has failed at something? Multiple things. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I know I can't do the full screen just because the videos don't work very well, but some of us have hesitated raising our hand when it comes to failing. And why is that? Why are we so hesitant to admit when we've failed at something? Is it something ego-based? Is it something that is just hurts our self-confidence? We don't want to be vulnerable. And so I had to ask myself that question anytime I felt like I had failed, not just in aviation, but outside. And what I didn't say when I joined the Air Cadet program is that I actually got the glider scholarship, but the first year I didn't get it. And I had a mentor who had suggested how to answer one of the questions. And by doing that, I felt like when I got to the actual interview process, I was so ready for it. And then I choked. When they asked me, like, why are you the best candidate? And I was in this little lull of, do I say the answer that everyone says is going to be the best answer, or do I say the answer that is more authentic to myself or a little bit more in alignment with who I am? And so by the time that I tried to answer it, I didn't have the answer and it didn't look good. I saw everybody writing, and that haunted me for a whole year. The next year I went and applied again, and I wanted to go for the power scholarship, which is to get your full private license. But I had another mentor coach me and say, you should go for the glider. You have a higher chance of getting onto glider. Now, again, I was torn because should I listen? Last year I listened to a mentor, and it didn't go over well for me. I have to stick with an alignment. But I'm so glad I listened to that at that time, that mentor, because I have met so many wonderful people during that summer when I got my glider scholarship. And actually, even on Friday, I was able to meet up with one of the people, and we had lunch. And so 13 years later, we're all still connected. And I think that was just huge, is knowing that you're part of a community that supports you and cares for you, even if you're feeling vulnerable or feeling challenged and it feels like it's hard to push through. So I have a little video here that's a little funny. Oops, sorry. And what's the takeaway there is that we usually just see people's successes or the Instagram posts or any social media. We don't get to see what is in the background, which is sometimes falling and failing over and over again until you get it. So because I didn't get the power scholarship, I had to figure out ways to fund my flight training. I had the opportunity through a friend through the cadet program and asked anybody who had pilot experience if you'd be interested to work up in Nunavut. And I reached out to that person and right away got selected and was able to work up in Nunavut, made a lot of money to fund my flight training. And I was so excited that by the time I was working on my commercial license, I got accepted to work for Air Canada Express as a gate agent through Skywings Aviation. So let's talk about ways of getting your flight training or your pilot training. You can do it through a flight school, an aviation program, which is what I did. I went to Red Deer College and did the aviation diploma program. For those who are in Calgary, where I live, there's the Mount Royal program. If you're able to purchase a plane or purchase a share of an airplane, you can find a freelance instructor like myself and have them teach you, basically privately. The Air Cadet program takes you to your glider and then your private or through the military. First thing you want to do is get your student pilot permit, and allows you to go solo. You have to be at least 14 years old and category 3 medical or higher, a P-STAR exam, and your radio license. Now, I've had friends who actually got their pilot license before they even got their driver's license, so it's kind of wild. As you can guess who my first passenger was when I was able, or when I got my private license, and you can see how happy my dad is in this video or this photo. So you have to at least be 17 years old, basically all the requirements for your student pilot permit, having some ground school hours, your written exam, and a minimum of 45 hours of flight training. Now that's what you would get in the cadet program, but on average, if you do this civilian, just like regular, at a flight school is about 60 to 80. And you might be asking, well, why is it almost double? It's because you're actually a little bit more heavily involved. You're going to be taxiing, you're going to be talking to air traffic control, especially if you're working in a Class C airspace, which is what Springbank is near Calgary. And then you do a flight test. Moving on to your commercial license, at least 18 years old, your private license, and as you can see, a little bit higher requirements for flight hours, your flight tests, and a category 1 medical. Moving along to extra licenses and ratings, you can get your night rating, your multi-engine rating, instrument rating, instructor rating, and mountain flying, some float ratings, and your airline transport license. There's a lot of pilot jobs out there. Sometimes we only know that there's airline or maybe cargo, but you can be a career flight instructor, a flight test examiner, a training captain, test pilot, water bomber, and charter medevac, work for the military. And if you decide to go the helicopter route, you can work for the police or do some heli ski tours and really cool stuff like that. The big thing for me is that I live by some principles, and at the end of the day, I ask myself, how did I keep myself well fed? F stands for first love yourself. So why, or fly, pretty appropriate for aviation. So what did I do to love myself? Maybe it was to read a book or to go to gymnastics or anything that just like fills my soul with fulfillment and heartwarming things. And sometimes it's just flying and being out in the airplane. E is for educate. So learn as much as you can, learn from your mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And then from that, teach and share that information. D is dedicate, dedicating time to making the world a better place. So it can be just as simple as saying hi to somebody or a stranger, or smiling and asking how their day is, just being kind, or, you know, actually what Elevate does, which is increasing or making awareness to the world of aviation and having access to it. And that's why I was so excited when I got selected to represent Miss October for the 2018 calendar, and just love everything that Elevate does, and it's so in alignment to who I am as a person. And I want to end off with you are the main character of your story. No matter what path you choose, at the end of the day, as long as you stay focused, consistent, and disciplined, you're able to achieve whatever you would like in your life, and you can create that life for yourself. I have one final video. Thank you guys so much for listening to my journey into becoming a pilot. I will hand it off to Hannah.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely incredible, Rhodielyn. Yes, and I love your videos as well. Just a reminder that we are writing all your questions down and we are saving them for the Q&A period after all three speakers have presented. Next up, I would like to welcome Brittany Mayo, who works as an aircraft maintenance engineer at Top Aces.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So I got a little speech first thing, and then I have a bunch of pictures to show because pictures are the best, right? So my name is Brittany, and I'm currently an aircraft maintenance engineer for Top Aces. So I got into aviation like many others, watching Top Gun as a kid and wanting to be a fighter pilot. I started in high school trying to go that route, but as you can see, it didn't really work out that way. Still wanting to fly, I went to Victoria Flying Club and started my private pilot's license while attending university. I learned flying was fun, but I'm not one to sit and stare at the sky all day. I get bored very easily. More and more, I would head into the hangar and hang out with the mechanics. The PRM at the time ended up hiring me on as an apprentice, and I left university, signed up for college at Northern Lights College in Dawson Creek, and started my career as an aircraft maintenance engineer. Once I graduated, I got a job at Harbor Air Seaplanes, working on good old piston beavers, twin otters, and single otters. I have pictures as well. They were an amazing company to work for, but I decided, like I said, I can't sit still. I want to pursue some new adventures. One day, the job posting for Ken Boric Air came up into my emails. So I applied right away. And awesomely enough, my bosses at Harbor Air were super supportive. And I ended up working for them part-time during the while I worked for Ken Boric. So I got hired on as a rotational twin otter mechanic with Ken Boric Air, and that's when I started my traveling career. My first ever rotation was Resolute Bay, Nunavut. Now, I'm born and raised in Vancouver Island, so northern Nunavut was a bit of a shock. It was super cold, and working alone was a whole new concept to get used to. But luckily, my pilots and base manager were amazing and made the transition actually super fun. You learn a lot having to work alone. You really have to trust yourself and your abilities. And some things may not be ideal, but you have to find ways to make it work. Resolute Bay became my main base until Antarctic season. So Antarctic season is a completely different ball game altogether. You start by flying the Twin Otter from Calgary all through South America until you get to the very tip of Chile, which is Punta Arenas. Now, that was a great time, flying through all of South America, and it's pretty neat. And, you know, you get to see all these new places and stay at different hotels. The ferry trips, when you fly from Calgary down to Antarctica, is usually when you find out what's wrong with your aircraft. They don't have a lot of time to reconfigure after the northern season, so you're going to have some bugs to fix, which is totally expected. Once you get to the ice from Punta, it's honestly amazing. There's really no words to describe when you first land there, to be honest with you. My first season, I did a half-season. So I flew commercially into Antarctica, into Union Glacier for a company called Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions. So what they do is they fly around tourists all around parts of Antarctica where they can do skiing, mountain climbing, a bunch of different kind of neat activities. So when you land, like I said, it's flat, white, and super bright. But like I said, it's just indescribable. You just cannot explain. You're like, wow, this is my home for the next few months. Being at a tourist camp for the first tour to the ice was great and honestly uneventful, which is kind of nice. Lots to do and see. We'd fly around adventures, different mountains to climb, including a dormant volcano, and we actually got to camp at the bottom of it for a week, which was pretty cool. My second tour down there, though, was a deep field camp for 3 months for the United States Antarctic program, flying around scientists and equipment to different places around what's called the Lower Thwaites Glacier. That season was probably the most difficult time of my career. We had an engine change amongst various other issues, and being in a deep field camp, getting parts and trying to communicate, especially back with the main base in Calgary, was extremely difficult. With that being said, that tour made me a way better engineer, and those hard times are super important for your career growth and also personal growth. Soon after, with a tour to Resolute Bay in between, COVID hit, which of course brought in the layoffs. As much as I loved working for Ken Borger, sitting idle and waiting, like I said before, it's not something I'm good at. So I did a 180 and started working on helicopters in remote areas around British Columbia. We were doing aerial fertilization, so being deep in the bush or on random islands is usually where you'd find us operating. Sorry. So not only was I the mechanic, I was also the fueler and rolling drums and fueling the helicopter every day. And I was also the bin truck mechanic. So all of the trucks that carry the fertilization, I was also responsible for maintaining those as well. The biggest thing you have to learn traveling and being on the road is you never just have one job. You have to work together to get the operation done. You're also living together, so getting along is also very important. As neat and interesting as that job was, it just wasn't for me. And luckily enough, I managed to get a job back in Victoria for Top Aces. So remember when I said I wanted to be a fighter pilot? Well, I found the next best thing, which is working for Top Aces on Alpha jets and Learjets. It's very different from the bush work I've been doing for the past while, but a good different. For example, instead of cold places sleeping in tents, I get to work in places like San Diego, helping the Canadian Air Force with United States exercises, and I get to stay at hotels. Very, very nice. This coming week, actually on Wednesday, I will be in Alaska. And before the new year, I travel to Halifax, Fredericton, Winnipeg, Bagotville, Quebec, San Diego, and of course home here in Victoria, all supporting our military in various exercises. So very busy. The best part of this career is the opportunities you have to see the world and grow not only as a mechanic, but as a person. Yes, I know it's very cheesy, but it's very true. The experiences you get, the people you meet, the places you go, they're all worth it. So how do you get into this kind of career? Well, to get into aircraft maintenance, it's fairly straightforward. There's a few colleges around Canada. You've got BCIT in Richmond, SAIT in Calgary, Confederation College in Ontario, and of course the best, yes, I am biased, Northern Lights College in Dawson Creek. From there, you can choose what part of aircraft maintenance you're interested in. I'm an M1 licensed engineer and currently working on my M2. So M licenses allow you to sign off the entire aircraft and work on pretty much every system, both helicopters and aircraft or airplanes as well. M license school, and then you do apprenticeship. And then once you have to complete a logbook and you have a few exams to do, but honestly, nothing too difficult. Once you get working, there's two different classes. So there's M1 and M2. So M1, this very easy way to say it, is smaller aircraft, and M2 is larger aircraft. And then once licensed, you work towards getting an aircraft certification authority, which means that you can actually sign off the aircraft. Each aircraft requires a course, and each company decides when you're ready to actually be able to sign off the aircraft, saying it's safe for flight, which is your aircraft certification authority. So it's a bit of work, but you want to make sure you're comfortable and the company make sure you're ready for that responsibility. There are also a few other licenses you can get. An S license, which is aircraft structures, Hannah, engineer. So you're working primarily on airframes of the aircraft. And there's also an E license, which is avionics. So all the wiring, programming, all that type of stuff, which is super. There's even a B license, which is for hot air balloon maintenance, which I think is the coolest thing in the world. These are all shorter programs because you're specializing on a very specific aspect of maintenance. All of these take time and dedication. It takes a while to build up the experience and knowledge to the point where you start getting more responsibilities and better jobs. Aviation is a small industry. Everyone knows everybody. So keeping a good rapport, working hard, and getting yourself out there is super key. And networking being probably one of the most important if you want to pursue a traveling career. So that's my speech. But I also have some pictures I can show you here. Screen share. Bear with me, sorry. To share. Okay, so I hope everyone can see that. So here's an example. These are all piston beavers, which is what I mostly worked on at Harbor Air. They're pretty cool. All float planes, of course. And we got the single otter on the dock, beautiful day. And this one is 314. So when I was at Harbor Air, I was put in charge of overhauls. So this was my first project that we completed, and I'm pretty proud of it. Still flying. And this is one of my flight crews when I worked for Ken Borg Air and Resolute. So we think, the first ever all-female flight crew to actually fly for Ken Borg Air. So we got my captain there, and then our officer, co-captain. It's also not always a very clean job. So had to, show the dirty side of it. That's up in Resolute Bay. Again, the weather's not always cooperative, let's be honest. So, and there's me in the back there. I needed a nap. You get a little burnt out after traveling all the time. So a lot of the times I'd go out with the pilots and we would dig up old fuel drums and bring them back to camp. So we were cleaning up the north. So we decided to have a little dance party because you know what? You got to make it fun. Our slogan was "No drums left behind." This is Bort Fjord, and it is north of Eureka, Nunavut. So you do a lot of off-strip landings, and you get to see parts of the world that not many other people get the opportunity to see. Yeah, the plane lands, get on it. When you're stuck in a deep field camp, these are no truer words have ever been written. So this is my first season, and that's my friend Cody. She's a pilot. And we came into Antarctica on this, which is the Aleutian, to Union Glacier there. So it's a pretty cool flight. They have a camera that you can see the entire flight while you're sitting in the cabin, which is pretty neat. Like I was saying, difficult season, our engine change. So this is kind of part of it, our first steps of making a nice little rig setup. Which then turned into this. She had heaters blowing in there. I mean, working in the cold is extremely hard. It was usually about -30 every day. So you want to keep everything warm and everyone happy. Some new friends out in Antarctica, Representing Canada in Waste Divide. They had an American flag and a UK flag because it was a joint project, but we decided to bring a Canadian flag as well. It's our Christmas tree we made in Antarctica. That's Union Glacier there. That's, again, the first season. Beautiful, surrounded by mountains. It's quite neat. And obviously you can see it's warm enough where you don't have to wear a parka. Of course, spent some time in the South Pole as well. There's our twin otter. And it's very cold. On average, when we were there, it was probably about -60 Celsius. So you have to be super careful going outside. This is our camp at Mount Sidley. This is that dormant volcano that I was talking about in my speech. Pretty cool camp. Again, we like to dance. We're a dance party crew. And then we got stuck trying to fly on the way back. So this is our crew bonding, as we can only set up one tent. This was the camp in Waste Divide at that deep field camp. So this is kind of what you're living in. You got your food tents, and you got your shower tent, and they actually had laundry machines, which is quite surprising. This was our full crew, including Basler DC-3 pilots, engineers, as well as our Twin Otter crew. You know, had a little fun photo shoot, because why not? Like I was saying, you're not always working on aircraft, so fixing trucks is kind of what we had to do. This was out in Guilford Island. It's an island just off the coast of Vancouver Island. Of course, helicopter life in the bush. That was the helicopter I'd follow around, ACM. So as you can see, you're always in the elements, and you always got to kind of figure it out, right? And that day was a little snowy. And that brings us to top aces, the Alpha Jets and the Lear Jets. This was here in Victoria the other week. And last but not least, one of my favorite pictures. We had to go to the Top Gun bar and get a picture in the cutouts here, because like I said, who doesn't love Top Gun? So that is the end of my presentation. So yeah.
That was absolutely incredible, Brittany. Thank you so much. Very interesting, informative, and I loved your pictures. And it's awesome to see like the drastic change from maybe working in Antarctica to BC, like the weather differences. You got to be adaptable for sure.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, now let's hear from our last but not least speaker, Carolyn Hoffman. She is going to speak about what her job was like as a flight attendant working for WestJet.
Hi there. So I'm going to, before I start my presentation, I'm going to try and show you a video. Let's see if it works. Here we go. Can everybody see this?
Fitting into the buckle of the strap to tighten to release the proportions of the buckle. Turbulence may occur with no warnings. We recommend that you keep your seatbelt fastened at all times, even when the seatbelt sign is off. In the event of emergency, you will hear the command to brace. Refer to your safety features card.
Are you guys seeing this at all?
Do not take any carry-on.
Yes, we are.
During evacuation and follow the directions of the flight crew. There's a total number of 18 emergency exits on board this aircraft. There are 4 window exits located in cabin over the wings, 2 emergency door exits located in the forward, and 2 emergency door exits located in the rear. Please take moments to find the exit nearest to you, along with all the exits. Keeping in mind, these can be right behind you. Should a power loss or emergency occur, floor level lighting will come on automatically, and all exits will be indicated by, you guessed it, illuminated exit sign. Now, should the cabin pressure change, full rostrum mask will automatically drop from the panel located above you. Remain seated, immediately pull the mask towards you to start the flow of oxygen. Place that bright yellow mask over your nose and mouth, securing it behind your heavy elastic strap. Pull on the 2 loose ends at the front to tighten. Please insist on your own mask prior to assisting others. Upright in your tray. If your electronic device becomes within the seat, do not adjust the seat or try to retrieve it. Call your cabin crew immediately for assistance, and always use care when retrieving your carry-on items from the overhead bin to avoid injury to yourself or other guests. Thanks for making this part of your flight today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Oh, he's gonna do it in French. Oh yay.
Veuillez nous accorder votre attention alors que nous présentons les mesures de sécurité suivantes.
Vous trouverez devant vous une carte des mesures de sécurité concernant cet avion. Veuillez en suivre avec nous les points importants. La cabine est munie de voyants concernant les ceintures et l'interdiction de fumer. Veuillez vous y conformer en tout temps. Il est interdit de fumer, d'utiliser des cigarettes électroniques ou des vapoteuses et de consommer vos propres boissons alcoolisées, y compris celles achetées au boutique locale. Votre ceinture de sécurité doit être bouclée et ajustée à vos hanches lorsque les voyants des ceintures sont allumés. Pour ce faire, insérez la languette de métal dans la boucle et appuyez sur la courroie pour l'ajuster. Pour la détacher, soulevez la boucle. Les turbulences peuvent survenir sans avertissement. Nous vous recommandons de garder votre ceinture bouclée en tout temps, même lorsque les voyants des ceintures sont éteints. En cas d'urgence, vous entendrez une commande vous demandant de prendre votre position de protection. Consultez votre carte des mesures de sécurité pour connaître votre position de protection. Ne prenez aucun bagage avec vous en cas d'évacuation et suivez les directives de l'équipage. Il y a au total 8 sorties de secours, soit 4 hublots de sortie au milieu de la cabine, au-dessus des ailes, 2 portes à l'avant et 2 portes à l'arrière. Prenez le temps de repérer la sortie la plus proche de votre siège ainsi que l'emplacement des autres sorties. Si vous êtes d'alimentation d'urgence, l'éclairage de plancher s'ouvrira et toutes les sorties seront indiquées par leur enseigne de sortie utilisée. En cas de changement de pression dans la cabine, le panneau situé au-dessus de vous s'ouvrira et déclenchera les masques à oxygène. Tirez immédiatement sur un masque et se libère. Laissez-le sur votre nez et votre bouche tout en passant la bande élastique derrière votre tête. Tirez sur les 2 extrémités à l'avant pour l'ajuster. Mettez votre masque en premier avant d'aider les autres. En préparation du décollage, veuillez redresser votre siège et votre tablette. Si votre appareil électronique reste coincé dans votre siège, n'essayez pas de le récupérer ou d'ajuster le siège. Demandez immédiatement l'aide de membres de l'équipage de cabine. Afin d'éviter de vous blesser ou de blesser d'autres invités.
So that is part of being a flight attendant. You can have a lot of fun. That was my friend, Michael. I've worked with him several times, and he's a great flight attendant and just overall fun to work with. So here's my story. I was in my late 40s, and I'm driving down the road one day, and I'm stopped at a set of lights, headed to the airport, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? I'm 40 years old. I have a family. I have 3 kids. I don't like flying. I love airplanes, love aviation, all of that. But prior to this, I was a bank manager, and I had worked for a major bank for 20 years, managed 15 staff members, and I hated my job. I hated going to work every day. And so one day, a friend of mine came in and said, well, if you don't like working here, why don't you try working for WestJet? They're hiring. And so I said, sure, why not? And so I filled out an application form and I got hired. Anyway, so training was not easy. You're in a room with 15 to 20 people, some younger than you, some older than you, all different shapes and sizes. And we had to learn things I'd never heard of before, things like the phonetic alphabet, IATA codes, ailerons, critical surfaces, all new stuff to me. And I've learned that I was never too old to learn. First aid was easy. Firefighting, also easy. I could get through these, no problem. I thought it would odd that I would have to learn all of these things just to be a flight attendant and serve coffee and drinks, but that was fine. But being a flight attendant is so much more than customer service. Serving guests on an airplane is just the filler. Being a flight attendant requires some skills that you never thought that you would need or think might come in handy. The role of a flight attendant is really a safety specialist. on the ground, in the air. You have so many things that you need to think about. You need to think about what is safe for people to pack on the airplane, what is hazardous materials, what can go in people's bags, not your bags, but what are people packing on the airplane? What is it safe to transport? You're taught situational awareness, and your situational awareness on an airplane is, I would think, your number one survival tool. You assess the passengers and the safety of the flight. It's that person going to be okay? Are they going to cause trouble? This all falls into place as you learn more about the roles of the job. You need to learn, and you're taught to be able to fight a fire on an aircraft as it's 40,000 feet in the air, because you're the only fire department they have. So you need to know what you're doing. You need to figure that out. You need to learn to administer first aid and perhaps try to resuscitate someone in the confines of a galley, or if someone falls between the seats, and you need to try and get an AED in there and try and bring them back to life. Because at 40,000 feet, you're the only ER or doctor that might be on board. You also learn to calm a frightened flyer, somebody who's never, elderly people are a lot of people that are scared of flying. And you become a counselor. You become a counselor to those people. So being a flight attendant, in my view, has many different hats. But at the end of the day, when you get off the plane, you grab your bag and you stow your hats. You generally don't take your work home with you. And that is a great thing about this work. When you are away working, when you're away working, you can't take your laundry with you. So you leave it at home. You don't have to worry about and when you're working, and when you're at home, you leave your work behind. You go home, you don't have to worry about that person who's reclining their seat or doesn't get the snacks that they wanted. So when I would go to work, it was for me. And meeting 5 to 6 new friends every week, some I'd never met before, some I got to know and fly with more and more over time. But this was my family for the next 3 to 5 days. We learn about each other and our at-home families, and you work together as a team. And we would land in places like the dead of winter in Winnipeg or Jamaica in the middle of the week. And when it's cold and snowing back home, then you get off the plane and you meet for dinner, and you spend the rest of the time getting to know each other or exploring the area, or just relaxing in front of a TV, binge watching your favorite shows. So for the next few days, these people are your family, and you look out for one another, both on and off the plane. It's a weird bond that you create just because it has to be one with complete trust. These people have to have your back, and you have to have them, because you are taught that in a situation, you have very little time to react to an emergency, and you need cooperation from your fellow crewmates. So I would also often think about it as it's like having a mini vacation with old friends or new friends, and you'd go off for 3 or 4 days and then you're back home. So working in the airline gives you a family like no other industry is like. And like I think Brittany said, the aviation industry is a small industry. It's a large industry, but it's a small industry. And you really form a bond with people, not only who you're working with, but just when people find out that you're working in the aviation industry, it's like your family. I would often say to myself, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. You generally don't have to worry about what you wear to work. You have a uniform, so that's good. And once you get to your destinations, if you're overnighting in places, you get there, your transportation is provided for you, your hotels are provided for you, you're told where to go, what time to be there. So it's all planned out for you. So it's a great vacation for you, and you're getting paid to do this. So that's really nice. And there are other perks for working in the airline industry as well. As a flight attendant, you can pick your own schedule. So it's easy if you wanted to become a flight attendant and have children, because you can pick up those days that your kids are at home with their dad or with their grandparents or whatever, and on days that you need to be home with them, you can be home with them. So doing this for me allowed me to be at most of my kids' childhood events, like birthdays, school plays, sport tournaments, and special occasions. I was home every Christmas with my kids, which I was very fortunate, but I worked my schedule around it. So you can manipulate your schedule. And as an industry employee, you also get the benefits being offered discount travel on other airlines, and just discount travel in general. So if I would say, honestly, if traveling is something that you want to do and you want to, being a flight attendant doesn't have to be a career. It can be something that you start early and move into different fields in aviation. But if traveling is something that you want to do, this is a great job. So getting back to myself, stopped at the set of lights 18, 20 years ago, where I'm asking myself that question, what am I doing? My answer would be this: I am finding a new career that will be fun and exciting for my friends and family, and a future full of new places. Would I change things? Not a chance. I've seen more of the world either through work or vacation than I ever thought I would, and that has extended to my children as well. I learned that my kids had more of me when I was at home, because I was a better person and present. I came to enjoy the fact that my time away was my time away and I could focus on me. And when I was at home, my focus was on my family. I also learned that my fear of flying was because I didn't know what to expect. But having an understanding now of how an aircraft works, and just a trust in the pilots and a trust in the system, that I no longer have that fear. My life as a flight attendant has been rewarding in many ways. I would recommend this to anyone who is wanting to explore travel and meet new people, because I used to often say I would meet 175 new friends every day, and it was a great life. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my presentation. Oh, and you can also have a lot of fun doing it, as you could see in the video with Michael. Anyway, that is my presentation. So that's it. Back to you, Hannah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was wonderful and gave us a really nice insight on more responsibilities that a flight attendant holds than what we would normally think of. So that was awesome. Thank you so much, Carolyn. We would now like to go into a brief question and answer period for the remainder of the session. So I'm going to pass it over to Katie, and she's been compiling some awesome questions from you guys.
Right. Hello. So first question that we have is, can you be employed directly by a big company such as Airbus, Boeing, kind of as an AMT? I'm assuming that means aircraft maintenance technician. So
Yeah.
I think,
yeah. So you can, they could definitely employ you right away. Yeah, like I said, it all depends on if you want to work on big, heavy aircraft or not. One thing that I've learned with going straight into like a company like Boeing is it's going to be a lot harder for you to get your actual license signed off, because you usually get stuck doing kind of one task. So you're the tire guy, you're the engine guy. So for that part of it, it does make it a lot harder to get your license, but you can right out of school go right into it.
okay, thank you. And Brittany, I have a second question for you. What is a PRM?
Oh, that is a person responsible for maintenance. So
Okay.
they are in charge of like all of us. They're our boss.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would that person be, like working to make sure that everybody gets everything is logged correctly and those kind of things?
Yeah, so everything's logged correctly, all the maintenance is done correctly, so everything kind of falls on that person.
Okay.
So if anything goes wrong, they're kind of the ones that are responsible to to talk to transport and fix all those issues.
Cool. Carolyn, I believe you answered this one because you mentioned that it was like being on vacation, but so you do get a hotel when you're in between flights and you're traveling.
Yes. The company, generally the company that you work for, everything is paid for you. So you also get a per diem so that you can eat while you're on the road as well. So your hotels are your own. You're not sharing rooms with anybody. That's your personal space. And the airlines have to give you, Transport Canada says that you have to have 10 hours of crew rest a night, and that's your personal time.
Okay, thank you. For Rhodielyn, can you answer what is a P-STAR exam?
Yes, P-STAR exam is basically like for your learners for a car, it's just your air law basic. There's sometimes just like the right of way of for planes, if you're going on to head-on collision, or light signals for if you don't get, if your radio stops working, things like that. So it's kind of the equivalent of getting your learners for driver license.
Okay, thank you. Got another question coming in. I think Carolyn's already answered this one. Do flight attendants get single hotel rooms or do they share with colleagues? And I think, Carolyn, I think you said that each person gets their own room?
Each person gets their own room, yes. Sometimes not the best hotels, but
yeah.
It's good.
So that's kind of nice. And so when say you're in Hawaii, you get your 10 hours to yourself with your own hotel room. So you can go hang out by the pool or you can rest in the comfort of your room, I guess.
Absolutely.
It's really nice. Do we have any more questions from the audience that you guys want to type into the question and answer box? Well, I have a question for all of you, and I think I know Brittany's answer, because I'm assuming the coolest place your work has ever taken you is Antarctica. But for Carolyn and Rhodielyn, where's the kind of the best place that you've got to go see because of your work?
For me, I've been to so many neat places. Aruba was really neat. And Prague, I loved going to Cancun, but Prague's probably one of my favorite places.
I've always wanted to go there.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Through work, it's mostly when I get to do the border crossings and kind of have the Border Patrol come up to the airplane. And when I teach students to do that into the States, they really enjoy that experience and just they feel so official with our pilot license and whatnot, going through security. So it's just a cool experience with the students, and then flying into the mountains and whatnot is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I bet the views in the mountains is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Rhodielyn, how much does it cost to become a pilot? And I'm guessing the answer is going to be if it's going to be private or commercial, but in general, how much does it cost?
So on average with a flight school, we say about 20 to 25,000, just at like, that's on the top end. If you were to do it, like I said, with the cadet program, it's a scholarship, which you can qualify up until you're about 18 years old. And then commercial, it depends if you do it with, like, say, Mount Royal or whatnot, with the updated prices, it can be 80 to 100.
Okay.
If I can just add in there, I know based on my experience with the Vernon Flying Club that there's several different little flying clubs around, and I know Kelowna has one as well, that you can apply for flying scholarships with them as well.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. I was going to say something I forgot to mention when I was working in Nunavut is I met a few Ken Borg pilots, and then I actually got the Ken Borg Memorial Scholarship, which was $4,000 $1,000, which helped pay for my multi-engine. So just looking for scholarships, and there's abundance of them now as opposed to when I was first looking for them.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Mm.
Brittany, kind of an interesting question coming about Antarctica. Somebody was just asking what kind of facilities that you guys had in the camps there.
It depends on your camp.
Okay.
So South Pole had like, you know, proper toilets and stuff. At the Deep Field camp, it was a hole that was made in the ground through the ice.
Okay.
And if you want to shower, you gotta shovel your own snow into a snow melter, and that's kind of how you shower. Very short, very quick, but yeah, it all depends. A lot of the places do actually have nicer facilities, but it depends on your base. But usually it's a hole in the ground.
Yeah, I would assume where you had a washing machine, you had a shower.
Yes, yeah, that was like, again, snow melter thing. You just shovel snow in the morning, put it in, and have a quick 2-minute shower. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
No
Well, I'm going to
problem.
pass it back over to Hannah, and yeah, thanks everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that, Katie. I would like to thank everyone so much for joining us today. I would like to say a big thank you to Rhodielyn, Brittany, and Carolyn for taking the time to participate in the cross-country tour this year. And thank you to all of our attendees for being here. If you have any further questions about what you heard today, please send us an email. The email address is info@elevateaviation.ca. Don't forget to visit the Elevate Aviation website for more information on what we do. Thank you and have an amazing day.